Good morning. As we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding the portion of Pashas Nasei, the second portion in the book of Bamidbar. In the book of Numbers, we're holding chapter 4, verse number 29. The name Merari, the children of Merari. We're counting the tribe of Levi. The children of Merari, Mishpachesim Lebeis Avesim, to the family, to the house of their fathers, Tifka Desim, we should count them. Ben Shleishim Shana Maila, from 30 years and above. Bad Ben Chamishim Shana, until 50 years. Tifkadeim, we shall count them. Kalabal Tzva Lotzava, when it comes to the service, Legion Lavid Tzavedis El Meid, to do the service in the El Meid. Zeis Mishradas Masnan, and this is going to be their charge, their duty. L'chol Avedasam, to their service, their work. We're El Meid in the tent of meeting. Kasha Mishkan, the bars of the Mishkan, Brichav, Amudav, Adanav, and its pillars and its sakas. They had the hardest job, heaviest part of the Mishkan. Amudav Chatzasav, in the pillars surrounding the courtyard. But the name and their sockets, we say the same and their pegs. We say same and their ropes, l'cholkleim, to all their implements, l'chol avedasam, to all the service, the work. Ubeshem is tifkudu. And you shall designate them by name as clay mishmeres masam, the implement charged by them and their burdens. Ashi says his name is Sesayim of the pillars, since the pegs and the ropes of the hangings were included in the burden assigned to the sons of Gershon. There were pegs and ropes from the bottom of the curtain and the hangings, so that the wind would not lift them up. So they were all tied down. Not only the pillars not to fall over, but also that the curtains in between the pillars that were hanging from the pillars would be strong and they would not blow away with the wind. And the upper edges of the poles and the rods, as is taught in Masechta in the Brisa of Melechas HaMishkan. This is the service of the house of Merari. To all the work made in the tent of meeting, Biyadi Samar, they were all under the direction of Isamar ben Aaron HaKohen. Verse 34, and then the chieftain, the leaders of the congregation counted the sons of Kahas. The Mishpachesim to the family, Beisavesim to the house, father's house. Shleishim Shana Maila from 30 years and above. By the Mechamishim Shana until 50 years, called Abala Tzava, all that came to the army, La'aved Ba'ayel Meir, to work in the tent of meeting. Vayir Pekudei Mishpachesim. And their tally, according to the families, Alpayim V'Sheva Meis, was 2,700 v'chamisha. Eile Pekudei Mishpacheis HaKahasi. This was the number of the family of Kahasi. Kala Evrav from El Meid, all those that did in the El Meid. Asher Pakad Meisha V'Hanim, which Meisha counted up Yashin. V'Yad Meisha, according to the mouth of God, in the hand of Meisha. Verse 38, could have been a Gershon, the counting of the children of Gershon. The Chesed V'Esavesim to their family, and to the family, to the house of their father. Ben Shleishim Shana Maila for 30 years and above. Ad Ben Chamishim Shana to 50 years. Kala Bala Tzava, all that came to the legions, La'aved Be'el Meir, to do the service in the El Meir. Vayir Pekudeim, and the total, Mishpachesim to their families, the Beis Avesim to the house of their fathers. Apayim V'Sheish Meir, 2,600, Mishpachesim and 30. This is the number of the families of children of Gershon. All those that served in the El Meid. Asher Pakad Moshe, which Moshe and Avarim, which Moshe not encountered up Hashem. Good to the tally of the family of the children of Merari. To according to the families and according to the house, father's house, from 30 years and above. Ad Bechamishim Shana till 50 years. Kalabala Tzava, when it came to the legions, La'aveda Be'el Meir, to do the work in the tent of the meeting. Vayir Pekudeim L'Mishpachesim, and they're counting according to the families. Shalish Shleish Alafim, 3,000 Masayim and 200. Eile Pekudim Mishpachesim B'nei Merari, These are the numbers of the families of the children of Merari, Pakad, Mesha, Adam, which Mesha hadn't counted. Alpiad Avaya, going to the mouth of God, Biad Mesha. Call up Pekudim, verse 46. Shapakad Mesha, all the numbers that Mesha not counted, the Sea Yisrael, and the leaders of the Jewish people, it's Levi and the tribe of Levi, Mishpachais and Levi Savesam, to their families, to the house of their fathers, Shlesh Shalom Amayla from 30 years and above. Bad Mechamishim Shan until 50 years. All those that came to the service of carrying. In the tent of meeting. That is avodas from the performative service for the service. So this also refers to the music, which is symbols and the harps, which was service of another service of the sacrifice. Because besides the schlepping that the Levian did, the putting up and the schlepping and taking down, etc., they also did the shira. They also did the singing in the Beis Hamikdash. Vedas Masha, and then they had the little mean, the carrying. So they had two different Avedas also. They had the service in the temple, like the Kehanim did that service in the temple. The Leviim did the service in the temple every day. The tally was 8,580 of the entire tribe. According to the directors of law, they were counted. You had Moshe in the hands of Moshe. Each man to do his job. Masai in his burden of carrying. Kudav. And what he was directed to do. Which God commanded Moshe. Now she says, those that were counted were commanded at the age of 30 until the age of 50. So we know that was their obligation. They had an obligation from the age of 30 till the age of 50. That completes the Chumash for today. We're in the middle of the 53rd chapter, which is the last chapter in the first part of Tanya, which is the 53 chapters of Tanya. We're coming to the completion of the first part, which is called Tanya, really. We're holding in the 53rd chapter. Bayesheni, the Alter Rebbe is talking about the revelation of God in the world, that through the Mishkan, we're talking about the Mishkan in the Torah reading, the Averis HaMishkan, Shachanti B'Seicham, God said, you shall build me a house, I shall dwell in the midst. So the Eibush revelation of God in the world happened in the Mishkan, and then the first Beis Hamikdash, the first temple that stood for 400 years, and then there was Churban Bayis Rishon. The Yidden went into Galus for 70 years, and then they came and built the second temple. So the second temple was taka bigger in size also, and it lasted for more years, but there was missing two important things. And that was the Aron and the Luchas. There was missing the ark and the tablets that were in the ark. So the second temple, which the ark and the tablets were not there, these being amongst the 5 things found in the first temple that was lacking in the second temple. The Urim V'Tumim was also missing in the second temple. So what was the point of that? What was the meaning of this missing these things in the second temple? Amar Rabbi saying is the Chen of Brachos and the Gemara, and our sages tell us that there was the Shechina didn't abide in the second temple like in the first temple. Pirush Madreges HaShechina Shasher B'Rayir Ishin. This means that not that God forbid the Shechina did not abide at all. So as we learned constantly, the Shechina is there wherever it is. The Shechina, as it says, even when he went to Galus, the Shechina is with the Yidden, with the world. But it was not in the same revelation again. It's speaking rather it speaks of the category of the Shechina. Which abide in the first temple, which is not in the manner of order in the center of the world. So it was this level that there was another revelation of the Gemara. You can go look at the Gemara, the 10 miracles that happened in the Beis Hamikdash every single day. There was an unbelievable thing in the first Beis Hamikdash, where great revelations happened, But it didn't happen in the second temple. The first temple, there was unbelievable miracles happened in the temple. It was like when you went to the temple, you saw a revelation of God that was above the world. Even in the Aron, as the Aron itself revealed a revelation of God in the Beis Hamikdash. Imam Shor took place, it didn't take place. That it was that was Lamayla Min HaSeichel. It was a revelation above the world, which in Kabbalah, it's the revelation. How do you explain supernatural in Kabbalah? Is the Shalei Kederech Eshtalshlus. That's the way it is in Kabbalah explained. Shalei Kederech Eshtalshlus, which means not in the manner of ordinary descent of the world. The Eibishter created the world in a certain kind of a descent. The way spirituality comes in the world, so that the world can handle it, and there would be not a breakage of the world. Ultimately, and that's concept of a miracle. That's why we are in awe of miracles, because it's supernatural, seemingly. In the Beis Hamikdash, they saw the supernatural in a natural way. They pushed it, and you came to the Beis Hamikdash, you saw Getlichkeit, you saw the concept of the supernatural. The Beis Hamikdash, the fire went up, came down from heaven to eat the sacrifice, that the pillar of cloud went straight up to heaven. There were miracles. You can look in Pirkei Avos and Ethics of Our Fathers, where in Pirkei Avos it says all the miracles that happen every day in the Beis Hamikdash. To the Bayis Sheni, it was different. The Eibishter came down according to normal descent of the world, in order of gradual descent of Malchus, of Malchus Atzilus, Malchus the Bria. There was a revelation of Atzilus, of Malchus Atzilus, that came down to Malchus the Bria, and then Malchus the Bria came down to Malchus the Yitzira, and Malchus the Yitzira came down in the Hilchot Kodesh Dasiya, came down in the shrine of Holy of Holies in the world of action. That shrine being Chabad of Asiya. The Kodesh Dasiya, the Holy of Holies of the world of Asiya. And then ultimately came down to the Beis Hamikdash. And the Malchus in the Beis Hamikdash rested Malchus of the world of Yitzira. And ultimately came down the revelation of God in the Kodesh of the second temple, the Holy of Holies of the second temple. And over there rested Malchus the Yitzira. There rested Malchus of the world of Yitzira. So therefore, even though there was no Aron in the Holy of Holies, there was no Aron there. And seemingly, if there's no Aron, why couldn't anybody go into the Holy of Holies? Nevertheless, and therefore, even in the second temple, there was no Aron. Still, nobody was allowed to go into the Holy of Holies. Levat Kohen Gadol b'Yom besides the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. And we know that even the Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur, it was a very dangerous thing to go into the Holy of Holies, that many of them died in the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur. Why? Because even though there was no Aron, nevertheless, there was a revelation of God in the Holy of Holies. Even though it was a gradual and the descent from one world to the other, but ultimately there was a revelation of God in the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore, it was still the Beis Hamikdash, and it was more beautiful than the first temple. It was bigger than the first temple, and ultimately it lasted longer than the first temple, the second temple. What happens now? Beis Hamikdash. Now that the second temple was destroyed, so we don't even have a Beis Hamikdash anymore. We don't even have a physical Holy of Holies anymore. The Gemara says, which a sanctuary is a part of God, resides in the shrine of the Holy of Holies. And Torah mitzvahs mentioned earlier, the Shekhinah must reside in the Holy of Holies. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. The Gemara says, has but the 4 cubits of halacha, levad alone. What does that mean? What is the meaning of the Gemara that the Talmud says that Mishachara Beis Hamikdash, from the time of the destruction of the temple, God resides in halacha, in Jewish law. Torah is the shrine of the Holy of Holies that connects God with the world. This is the Torah. The illumination of the Shekhinah, which is Kadosh, which is holy, meaning separate from, apart from the world, to become Baruch. And the word meaning root to draw down. Kadosh Baruch Hu is drawn down into the world in halacha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. El Badala Amash halacha, in the 4 cubits of Jewish law. And therefore the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, that even if one person sits by himself and learns Torah, the presence of God is with him. Brachas, has brought down the first chapter of Brachas. What is the meaning that the Shekhinah, the presence of God, is with him? It means that although he's being in this material world, the Shekhinah is level less with him. The level of Shekhinah that is with him. In order of the gradual descent of the investment of Malchus of Atzilus, and the Malchus of Bria, Malchus Dasir, it comes down to him. So Shekhinah Imam, just like the Shekhinah was in the Beis HaMikdash, first temple, in the second temple, the Shekhinah is with him. It is thus inferior even to the dwelling of the Shekhinah in the second temple, self-understood. And when a Jew learns Torah, it's not like the Shekhinah of the second temple, and a dwelling that indeed not require investment in Malchus Dasir. It differs in the drawing down the Shekhinah in the world in general, in which case the identical progressive descent occurs, in that the Shekhinah which resides in the world passes through the additional garment, the Klippas Teiga, while Torah and mitzvahs do not. And that's the beauty of learning Torah and mitzvahs. We separate ourselves from the world in a way, and we learn Torah. The reason that it must go through Malchus of Asiyah is that the overwhelming majority of mitzvah and Torah involve the physical action, and therefore ultimately needs to come down in the world of Malchus Asiyah. But really, it doesn't establish, doesn't clothe itself in the physical world, because we're learning Torah. We're learning a spiritual concept. The Shekhinah therefore descends into the level of action Asiyah, I shall now explain. Yamyag mitzvah Torah, because the 6 and the 13th commandments of the Torah, Ruben Kekula and mitzvahs maises, most of them are connected to involve the action. And not even does a mitzvah involve an action, but even learning Torah is you're learning Torah through your physical body. The gam tluis b'divrei machshava, and ultimately learning takes words, takes dibur, takes words. So it's a human being. You may Talmud Torah, like the learning of Torah that I'm speaking right now. Ubirchas Hamazon, and when you bench, Kriya Shema, all these things are done with the mouth, with a human being, with his mouth, with his physical reality. This is even so, though mitzvahs involve thought, seeking to grasp the concept that one studies, and to experience kavanas in the Shema and prayer. As such, they are not bound with action. So even though thought is more spiritual, so really this thought doesn't have to do with action. Speech is one thing. We know the rule. We have the general rule that you're not doing the mitzvah if you only do a behirah. You only do it if you only meditate. A person only meditates and doesn't daven, then what is the whole point? It's lav kedibur dummy, and you did the mitzvah of davening. You didn't do the mitzvah of praying. If you have all this thought and you didn't actually learn, so what is the point? The whole kavanah is that you should daven better and you should learn better. That you don't do the mitzvah of limud Torah, you don't do the mitzvah of davening, kavanah alone, even in his manner of meditation is close to speech, as a case when one thinks about the way in which he'll utter the certain words, which are called hirur. Hirur is thought, is not a mitzvah. It's wonderful. You can learn kavanah. It's important to meditate, and it's important to have unbelievable machshava, to be able to think in a positive way. But you didn't do the mitzvah. You didn't do the actual mitzvah. We talk about mitzvah. In the aspect of the mitzvah, until he gives the utterance of his lips. We have already established that Akimas Svasas have a Maisa, that we move the moving of the lips. When one is speaking, you might say, what is speaking? Maybe speaking is not an action either. So we have established in the Gemara already that the Gemara says Akimas Svasas have a Maisa. That's why it says you have to do what you said. Even though, what do I said? It has no value. The halacha says the opposite. A person says something, that makes him obligated. Because Akima Svasa, the moving of the lips, that I say something, now I have to do it because it's an action. In which case, all mitzvahs involve a form of action. So therefore, ultimately, every mitzvah, even Limanat Torah, is an action. Even though it's only with your mouth. Even davening is an action. Even though it's with your mouth. Because ultimately, your mouth is an action. The Rebbe explains that the Alter Rebbe will now anticipate the following question. Still remains to be understood. Why specifically the 4 cubits of halacha take the place of Holy of Holies? That's really the question. Why doesn't davening take the place of Holy of Holies? Why the halacha? Dalad Amish Shal halacha. That's why it's important to learn halacha. We say it every day in Adalad. Kol hashayna halachis. In the Mishnah it says, whoever learns halacha, Jewish law, not only learns Jewish philosophy or Jewish Torah in general, Dafka learns Jewish law. Muftach lisha ben elam haba. He's for sure that it'll be a son, it'll be a person of the world to come, because when a person learns halacha, he brings a shechina to the world. Dafka halacha. So the question, why halacha? Why not if I learn Torah in general? Why not if I do a mitzvah? Why not if I do davening? Why dafka halacha? It still remains understood the specific 4 cubits of halacha take place of the Holy of Holies. Why should it not be the Jew studies Torah? Not halacha. For there too the Shekhinah is with him. Right? Because the Mishnah doesn't say whoever learns halacha. The Mishnah is called whoever learns Torah, even by himself, the Shekhinah is with him. So if the Shekhinah is with me, but I learn Torah in general, why does the other place say halacha? The Alter Rebbe therefore explains that halacha possesses an essential a special merit of expressing divine will. Because halacha is the Eibishter's Ratzon. Is what the Eibishter, what God wanted in this world, is halacha. This philosophy, this Torah, self-understood Torah philosophy, which is beautiful, and we all need to learn Torah. But we need to know what the Eibishter ultimately God wanted from this world. That's halacha. That's halacha. Without halacha, without Jewish law, you don't know what God wanted in this world. To transform the world. So now the 6 of the 30 commandments of the Torah, which is halacha. Im Sheva mitzvah rabban, which is also counted as 7 mitzvahs that the rabbis added, which is gematria altogether. They equal 620, which is the word kesed, which is the crown. What is the crown in Kabbalah? Kesed. Kesed is kaf, saf, reish. So what equals up to kaf is 20, saf is 400, reish is 200, so it's 620. So 620, which is the Ratzon Elyon, which is the Kesed, we all know in Kabbalah, that Kesed is above Chachma. Kesed is the crown which crowns the wisdom. What is the crown, so to say, of God? Is the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Ratzon of the Eibishter. The Ratzon which is higher than Chachma. So that's really what mitzvahs are. The halacha is the Kesed of the Eibishter. The halacha is the Ratzon, is the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Will is called crown, but like a crown, it encompasses the head and the brain. Again, as a Kodesh, which is discussed at length, the concept of Kesed in Kabbalah. With the crown surrounds the head, which is the wisdom, is meluvish, which the Ratzon is meluvish, is enclosed in the Chachma, in the will of the will is enclosed in the wisdom of God. Thus, in addition to the fact that the Torah is God's wisdom, which is descent in a downward progression of the world, becomes the shrine of the Holy of Holies of the Shekhinah, there's an additional quality of being supernal will, the Ratzon of the Eibishter, So we have within the concept of chachma, the aspect of wisdom, and then you have self-understood, the ratzon of God, the will of God, which is even loftier than wisdom. This is the uniquely found halacha of a mitzvah. So when you learn halacha, not only you learn the wisdom of God, you learn the will of God, what God wanted in this world, whatever the mitzvah is, as an expression of God's will, the supernal will. This, which God's will, but Sefer is one with the light of God, Sefer. In the perfect unity. So if Chachma is united with God, the wisdom of God is God, then for surely the Ratzon of God, the will of God is God. In the ultimate aspect of union. Furthermore, in an earlier statement that the Torah derives from the supernal wisdom, as Alter Rebbe will now say, the oral law also emanates from that source. Hashem b'chachma yasar haaretz, and as it's brought down that God founded the earth with wisdom, it says. He teresh ba'al peh. This refers to the oral law, the nafka mechachmi law, which is derived from the supernal wisdom. As is brought down in the Zohar in Kabbalah, the Abba Yosad Baita, that the father Chachma beget her daughter Malchus. So Abba Yosad Baita, that the father is the source of the daughter. Father is Teresh B'Ksav. The father Chachma, which is Teresh B'Ksav, wisdom, which is the written law, had beget, gave birth to the concept of Teresh B'Peh, which is Malchus, the daughter, and together they created the concept of the true wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And what is Teresh B'Peh? What is the oral law? That's halacha. That's the halacha. That's the law. That's the way it's written. The law is ultimately written in Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, which is based on Teresh B'Peh, which is based on the oral tradition, Gemara, etc., the Mishnah, the Gemara, and ultimately the Shulchan Aruch. So Malchus, the oral law, as it's written, Malchus, the mouth, which is the oral law. Teresh B'Peh, called Teresh B'Ksav, the written tradition is Teresh B'Ksav, the written law. And what is the Gemara called? The Mishnah and Gemara called Teresh B'Peh, the Torah that is in the mouth. And we all know that one of the names to the world of Malchus is Dibur, is the concept of Peh. So that's why the Gemara and Mishnah, etc., and ultimately Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, which is called halacha. Torah Jewish law is called halacha. Law is din. It's called halacha. It's the way of life. The way halacha means to go, to walk. Shulchan Aruch, it's called a set table, but it's called ultimately Dvar Hashem Zu halacha. So where do we find it? When the temple is destroyed, where do we have the Shechina Sheira? The Shechina, presence of God. That means where is the presence of God? The Chachma, the wisdom of God, the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Where is it reside? It resides in the 4 cubits, so to say. Dalad Am is the 4 cubits, because that's Mekayim Shaladam. That's where you have a place. You can establish a place is in your 4 cubits, so to say. Is in halacha, in the concept of learning Jewish law, because over there is revealed the concept of the Shechina, the concept of the wisdom of God, and ultimately the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the will of God to the world. And that completes the Chumash, the Tanya of the day. Today is the 4th day of the month, which is chapter 23 to chapter 23 to chapter 28. If you do those 6 chapters, you do the Chitas of the day. I wish you a wonderful and beautiful day. And Mir Shem, we'll see you all tomorrow. Before Yontiv, tomorrow we will continue to learn Chitas together at 8 a.m. And then we have to Yontiv Bezat Hashem. So I wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day. Have a happy and healthy day.